Hi, I'm Spencer Krause. I've been building robots for over 20 years. In that time, I've seen a lot of interesting things, and I've heard a lot of interesting stories. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is a place where my colleagues and I can relax, crack a drink, and talk about some of the crazier things we've seen at work and some of the experiences we've had that have gotten us to where we are today. Subscribe today to join the collaboration. Welcome to the Collaborative Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Krause. Our guest today is Brian Smith. Brian is a business development manager at Section and an advisory board member at Pike Robotics. Brian, welcome to the pod.
Great to be here, Spencer. Thanks for having me.
Glad you could come here. We've been talking about this for a while now, and we're finally doing it. So glad to have you on.
Yeah, no, I've been looking forward to it.
Same here. So, Brian, how did you get into robotics?
You know, I've been into robotics since I was 13 years old. I still remember that my folks they bought me one of those kits that you can put together. It was this robotic arm, and I would go in my room and I had all these. I had everything, and I just started messing with the screwdriver and putting it together. And then just when it finally got it to work, I would pick up like a baseball and like move it from one side of the desk to the other, and I was just like, I like this. And in my middle school at the time had a robotics club which I got into, and this was at the beginning where I'm sure you remember when they were just like, it was like Legos that had
sure.
a motor on them, and that's how I started with that. And
was that the Mindstorms or the Technics?
It was the Technics.
Nice.
It was beautiful. It was and then I think I was a freshman in high school as well, and there was a robotics club, and I was like, why not? And it was pretty much like Robot Wars, where you would spend some time designing a robot that could smash the other one. I think we had like a pickaxe that was like that would go up and down, and we put them in like this octagon and just have them go at it.
That's awesome.
Like, this is kind of fun. So
I love stuff like that. I always thought Bots IQ was a more fun program than First Robotics. Not to dog on First, but the BattleBots, I think it's just, you get total creativity on what components you use as long as it's 15 pounds. So I love that there's like, you can use titanium from like a Russian aircraft yard, and I have. And but you can also, like whatever you can find, it's fair game. I always thought it was realistic in that way, like a good analog to actual engineering.
Absolutely, and everyone loves to smash stuff. Everyone loves to smash it, so you get to do it, and you get a prize at the end. I mean, what's better?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's so much fun, and like people couldn't be friendlier, right? I mean, you'll mess up someone's creation and like just destroy it, and they'll give you a hug. Like it's a great scene.
Between the tears, it's
sure.
No, it's so that's how I got into it, and just I mean, this was back mid to, or excuse me, early 2000s, and it's I mean, the robotics as a whole is just climbed and climbed to heights I didn't think were possible, but it's a happening field, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's been incredible just to see kind of our field blow up in the last 10 years, and then even more in the last 5 years, and then there was the whole defense boom before that. I feel like with the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, where a lot of our predecessors were making just boatloads of money selling EOD robots.
Well, it's what's interesting, and a lot of them will say that for the war robotics, the best experience is a war. That's where they're testing out this stuff to see, like, okay, what's going right, what's going wrong. That's where Boston Dynamics was trying out their dog for a little bit to see, like, what can it sustain? Can it go over the gravel? Can it go over, or should we just keep it in like a pristine condition in a white room or whatnot, or can this actually be practical? Like what like and what they were trying to figure out is, well, how quickly is it going to overheat? How quickly can it, maintain visibility? And it's yeah, I mean, that's and what's interesting throughout history, a lot of the great technological advances have been through war.
Yeah,
It's
for sure. No,
like
microwave,
like it or
radar.
not. Yeah, tanks, radar.
Yeah.
I know the Wright brothers had some stuff, but I mean, they really, the real commercialization of the airplane
Well, I mean,
started in World War
aviation. Yeah, to your point, advanced leaps and bounds in like first World War One and then World War Two, and then obviously just exponential. I mean, just the fact that like, whether the Wright brothers do their first flight in like it was the early 1900s, right? It was like 1910 and something. I don't remember the exact year. And I might be wrong on that. And please send all complaints to podcast@skarobotics.com. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it was like, well, I mean, when we launched someone into space, like Alan Shepard went into space like 50, 40 years later, something like that. So
yeah,
just
yeah,
the
exactly.
exponential, progress of humankind. I mean, I think in aviation has been insane. And that's a pretty close analog to robotics, I think, when you look at like fields that are just interesting and puzzles and, attract like a pretty interesting kind of brain.
Well, and that's the beauty of it as well. There is so much. It's really like a lot of this stuff has never been done. So yeah, there's just the trial and error. I mean, look at Elon Musk. The dude, says like a lot of these rockets I know are going to explode, but I send them anyway because I need to know what's going to happen. And I mean, he's like, there's nothing like getting down and dirty and actually, figuring out what works and what doesn't. And really, that's kind of how I feel where we are robotically. I mean, yeah, there's just from the innovation standpoint, but a lot of it's like we just got to trial and error this and figure out what's right, and then what can we improve upon.
Yeah, for sure. No, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, I used to work for SpaceX, so like when you mentioned Elon Musk, I had flashbacks. Like, it's.
I bet you got stories.
Yeah, I mean, like I only ever shook his hand the one time, but it's yeah, he's definitely advancing technology in a way that I don't think very many people will or have, in the history of people. And so I have a lot of admiration there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so what are some of the things that you see coming up as like advancements in the field of robotics? So obviously, I mean, Pike and or more in the inspection and maintenance space. What's some of the new stuff that's coming on the horizon over there?
Yeah, it's obviously we're at, we do, and we were talking a little bit about this with the drones. That the drones are just incredible right now. What's coming on the horizon? Just some of the capabilities, and what I primarily do is inspection of critical infrastructure and whatnot, and pretty much what keeps this country going. The critical infrastructure, oil and gas, and
Sure.
whatnot is and really that's also what Pike does. It's figuring out how we can do this safely. How can we inspect some of these seals that go into these tanks to make sure that we don't, no one dies in confined space. And yeah, just some of the leaps and bounds on that is pretty incredible. But also, I would say what I'm seeing, and I've talked to some people about this as well, just the some of the artificial intelligence in regards to that. Now, again, it's the thing about artificial intelligence in this field. It's still I'm not going to say it's elementary level by no means, but does it still have a long ways to go? Yes, absolutely, especially with what they're thinking of with some of these drones is you'd fly the drone and it would go over some sort of defect in a tank or a pipe or a vessel or whatnot, and the AI will be able to tell you exactly what's wrong with it theoretically. Are we completely there yet? No, it's there. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that are working on it. Just some of the technology I've seen, we're not to the point where it can automatically generate generative AI for this particular section. I'm not seeing completely there, but are we getting there? Yeah, I can see a situation where that is going to be coming online probably pretty soon.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, and SK Robotics, as I was kind of mentioning, does have some interest here. So, I mean, we're working on an AI for corrosion detection right now, and we're going to be demoing it probably around the time this episode comes out for the first time. So, hopefully, we'll have some good footage to splice in. But, I think it's on the rise. I mean, I kind of was one of those people that was pretty bearish on AI at first because I think you saw a lot of BS that was getting called AI. And so, it's like the Garner hype curve. Like, I think we've like passed that peak of inflated expectations and gone through the trough of disillusionment and are now entering into like, real application. And so,
Absolutely.
I mean, we're all seeing it with generative. And I think in robotics, I mean, as well as I do, like the big app is like, segmentation. So, like, how big is that crack? Is that corrosion? Is that a leak? Where is the paint coming off? I mean, just, being able to figure out, what's wrong quickly when you're scanning vast amounts of data that, a human, is going to miss something if they're coming over.
And what some people are doing is, they're taking those inspection reports and putting them into a database with that AI, and then they're trying to have predictive models of like what this would look like in the future. So
And
that's
that gets
another
into
thing.
generative. That's really cool. I didn't know about that yet.
Yeah, it's there are people that are building their own AI models for that to say, okay, how can we, what is this going to, if we inspect this tank, right now using this, AI, what is the plan for the next 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, whatnot?
So,
And they're going to put in all the data points of like they're trying to calculate, well, the weather, what's the weather going to look like? Is this area prone to hurricanes? So, what's the, what wind force? And so you put in that data point of like, oh, we predict like this area is going to have X amount of hurricanes with X amount of wind. So if that's the case, what's it going to look like? So they probably play out these scenarios, best case, worst case, and, so they can predict for the future. So that's really going to be interesting, I think, just to see what did they get right? Yeah, what should we go back to the drawing board for?
no, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just imagining like the first 20 minutes of a zombie movie where just all the infrastructure's gone to crap. And I know that's probably not all that it is. It's probably like if you do this, it'll be like that. If you don't do this, it'll be like that. But I think it's an interesting way to visualize, like kind of like given trends and what we know, like where's that asset going to be in 20 years? So
Exactly. And again, I think some of them will get it completely right. But again, like there, I mean, there's so much that we just don't know. And yeah, I mean, like, I mean, we keep thinking like, I mean, just for an example, they where I am, they were like, oh, this summer is going to be, the hottest on record. Well, at least where I am right now, I'm in Houston, where it's, 100 plus degrees normally, when I wake up, it's like a cool 85. So I'm like, what's going on here? Like,
we've always sucked at predicting the weather. Like I don't know, I feel like we like to think we're evolved, but people aren't good at that.
exactly. But yeah, no, it is going to be interesting. Yeah, just to figure out, yeah, predict and really like predictive patterns, like um and again, like if I had a crystal ball, I'd love to figure out, yeah, what it's going to look like. We only know what uh it's hard to we predict the future based on the past. So that's going to be one of the cornerstones, right?
That's the best data we got. I mean, it's the best data the AI's got too.
Right,
So,
right, exactly. So and yeah, well, and I think the one of the last times we talked, we had talked a little bit about, yeah, just the some of the AI videos that are coming out, and yeah, we're really even on something so minute as that. I'm like, wow, this this is something else.
yeah, for sure. No, I completely agree, and I mean it's been kind of mind blowing, and just makes you love being alive, in modern age as tech is just evolving exponentially.
It is, and I do wonder because I think about like I've got two little kids right now, and I've really thought about like, am I going to see where I mean, am I going to be having a one day a parent teacher conference with an AI chatbot? I have wondered that. I'm like, is that really where we're going? Like,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure the teachers union will be pissed about that, but also, I don't know. Like, it seems to be the way things are headed.
Exactly. I mean, are they going to do? Is the AI chatbot going to do a better job than Miss Pope? I don't know.
Seems to be. I mean, it's funny because I remember that like maybe 5 years ago there was a time when like I was super duper upset to like get on the phone with like a bot or whatever because it was just terrible. You'd be like, "Give me an operator," and it's just like do you want to just something that isn't even close to what you were asking for, right? Like I can't, my imagination's not working right now, but like applesauce, you're like, no, operate, like and so
right. Do you want to be connected about billing? No,
not that at all. Yeah, exactly. They just assume that if there's even a 10% chance it's billing, that they'll just blow out 70% of people. So.
Exactly. Yeah, I think what they're trying to do is just people to go click. That's so.
Yeah, like, I guess our cost went down to run this call center.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Indonesia is looking pretty nice.
Yep.
This time of year.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, now I feel like it's gotten to the point where like you spend some time with Grok and you're like, this is amazing. Like this is smarter than half the people I know. Like this is awesome.
Yeah, same with ChatGPT. Like,
or Gemini for that matter. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I was, I asked it the other day to build me a model for Pike. Actually, it did it in 3 seconds. And I was like, wow, this would have taken me like an hour and a half to do on my own. But yeah, you say like, hey, I want this, populates it. You take a look. I know you know this, and then you're like, oh, okay, change this, change that, and boom, you got it right there. I'm like, okay, great. That gives me back 2 hours of my day.
Yeah, which is awesome. No, it's been a game changer. I do feel like some people overuse it, and so I've been trying. I think I went like a little bit too far off the deep end with using AI to like write my social media posts and stuff for a while. And then I kind of clawed it back because a journalist, Eugene Demetri from WTWH Robot Report, was like, I can tell you're doing that. I'm like, oh, no. I was super embarrassed. And I started writing all the podcast posts by hand again after that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because there was a study at MIT that compared ChatGPT brain to non-ChatGPT brain. And what you say is really correct. When you just pretty much outsource your brain and your thinking capacities, it's almost like when people take testosterone, their bodies naturally stop producing testosterone.
Yeah, it makes
it's
sense.
The same. It's the same way with our minds. If we turn them off, we're going to stop thinking. Yeah. And MIT did, like I said, they did brain scans on that, and it's amazing.
But so there's a noticeable difference in like an fMRI, like if you're relying on ChatGPT for cognitive offload. That's really interesting to me. I did not know that.
Like I said, I wasn't surprised by it, but
I'm a little surprised by it. Like the fact that there's a physiological difference, like I don't know, that's interesting.
Well, apparently when you look at social media, apparently that does something to your brain.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and they've done studies on that as well. They were doing brain patterns like back in 2006, and then they were comparing it to a brain in 2020, and they're like, there is a noticeable difference.
Like people have declined further, or like it's gotten better because people have gotten over it.
It's what's interesting is that
it's just different.
It depends on the age of the brain. Like if like a 30-year-old person getting on social media, and then when they're 50, looking at their brain, their brain is different than someone that was in their teens. Now they're 36 or whatnot, And yeah, there is a no, mostly in the personality side.
Huh.
There are so you know, I don't think many of us can now imagine a world without social media, but
For
yeah,
sure.
it's the to think that yeah, our personalities are maybe even just a twinge different than it was before that is something to ponder.
Did you know that Collaborative with Spencer Krause now has a merch store? Please go to cwskmerch.com for the latest in CWSK styles. We've got hoodies, t-shirts, hell, we've even got whiskey glasses. Everything in the store has custom art that our team worked really, really hard on, so go ahead and show your support for them, me, and the rest of the CWSK team by going to cwskmerch.com today. Better yet, support yourself and use discount code PODCAST10, all one word, all uppercase, for 10% off your entire order. Thanks for your support and enjoy the rest of the show. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is sponsored by SKA Robotics. If you're in the market for elite field robotics expertise, please consider hiring SKA Robotics. They sponsor this podcast and solve some of the toughest engineering problems in the world. SKA Robotics can be found at skarobotics.com. Professionally, I got my master's in robotics from Carnegie Mellon, and that kind of legitimized what I was doing all along anyway, and made people think I really knew how to do it. And then, I just kind of kept doing it. And so I've worked for SpaceX, Joy Global at SK. I've done work for Siemens Energy, Google, Caterpillar, a couple of big oil and gas companies that I'm not allowed to mention yet. And, at the end of the day, I mean, it's just fun to solve people's problems. And so
and that's what I love most about this industry, especially, on the oil and gas side. There are some really smart minds, and yeah, really what a lot of my clients and whatnot, it's always about, can we do it better? I was telling you about I won't talk about the client or whatnot, but yeah, it was pretty much they had auditors talk about their vents, and they were going to get they were going to have a guy tied down and SWAT style rappel down the tank to look at these vents. And I was like, and I just looked at him like, why not just use a drone? And he was like, huh? I'm like, yeah, there are such things where we fly up if you're just doing a visual. I mean,
pretty par for the course, really.
Right. It seems like a much better solution than I mean,
a bunch of people risking their lives to do the same thing you can do in less than 5 minutes with a Ilios.
And the same thing, like and I was thinking about this the other day, like you think about our grandparents and our great grandparents, like I mean, I know you're up in Pennsylvania, where I'm sure that there are a lot of people in mines or whatnot, and back in the day, like they send people down there, and a lot of them die from collapse or black lung or whatnot, and now, you got robots that can go down and do them, and someone can stay in the control room. What are your kind of thoughts of where we're going robotically? I mean, obviously we're both in this space, and yeah, I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, I too am very interested in inspection and maintenance. I mean, I think to your point, like AI segmentation is on the rise. I just did an interview for the manufacturing happy hour with Jake Hull and Chris Lukey, where I talked a bit about my opinion on observation more than opinion. I mean, I've seen a lot of interesting things through our work in the hospital logistics space, with robots delivering different goods around hospitals, and just the rise of that market share. I mean, currently, I think you only see that in about 3% of hospitals in the U.S., and I think there's just a lot of growth to be had in that sector. And, we're working with a couple of different companies working over there. Another area that I think is kind of just ripe for, kind of expansion is construction. So I think all the technology that you've been seeing in mining over the last 10 years is, getting adopted more and more by construction, because when you've got a $7 to $20 million mining vehicle, it is more economical to stick automation on it than, you know, maybe a $70 to $120,000 construction vehicle. And so, you know, it's interesting to see the methodologies that we're using to automate those construction vehicles. I mean, you know, back into industrial inspection and maintenance and looking at, you know, power generation and where our power is coming from. I mean, SK Robotics has worked on everything from solar field construction robots to nuclear generator maintenance robots to, you know, inspection robots for the same, to oil and gas, you know, inspection robots. And, you know, I am a huge proponent of, you know, just smarter power infrastructure and ways to make that better. And I think we're, you know, both heavily involved in and seeing robots on the rise and just keeping big, expensive assets operational more of the time. And so, I mean, that's
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm curious, and I've got my thoughts on this, but I kind of love to get your thoughts on this too. What are some of the challenges right now that you're seeing robotically?
You mean in terms of like the challenges in engineering a robot, or like, you know, political obstacles, or what?
Implementation of, and I've got my thought, which, you know, I'll share, but I'm curious right now what your thought is on some of the challenges for the implementation of the robots.
Sure. So I'd say compliance is always a little bit of a challenge. I mean, getting people to actually use a system. You know, I mean, there was one that we worked on at a certain company I was at, which was monitoring people doing their jobs, and that was seen as a snitch, basically, because it was. And so, you know, it's if you're going to track people, I mean, you know, you can't be surprised when they don't put it on the charger correctly, and, you know, nobody wants to wear it. So I think that's kind of an obvious one. You know, I mean, I think deeper into it at the engineering side, you know, I mean, there's obviously challenges like trying to actually, you know, get over that last, you know, 2% of reliability is incredibly hard. Less operational, more developmental. Back to the operational side, I mean, just edge cases and corner cases, I think, will eat you alive. And so, you know, to be able to have an infrastructure in place to allow humans to take the reins when the autonomy can't handle it, I think is very important. What about you?
Yeah, you know, everything you've said, I agree with on that. Yeah, really getting that 2% across. I mean, yeah, from an engineering perspective, that's very hard. From an operational perspective, obviously, you know, I work in very hot environments. You know, if you go into a tank or whatnot, sometimes it can get up to 120 degrees.
Centigrade,
you know,
or Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit, or might be Celsius. It gets hot. It gets, you know, it's like an oven. Yeah, it's hot. It's an oven, and you're in your FRs as well, and, you know, you're trying to, you know, do your work and whatnot. And what we find a lot of times is the robots that are autonomous, that aren't connected to a power source, they overheat very, very quickly. Even the ones that are connected to a power source can overheat quite a bit. So figuring out a way to, you know, and obviously, you know, they do have cooling technology and whatnot, but, you know, again, and I always say that, you know, you take the, you know, robotic dog, like, yes, it's great, you know, but if I take it down to a bay town for a week and just, you know, in the hot sun and the dust, you know, yeah, how is it going to do? And sometimes it does great, but, you know, a lot of times we find from you know, they overheat. You know, they can overheat, and so you know, I know they're right now trying. They're actually mining H3 on the moon to bring it back to you know, Earth, to put it in the robots as a cooling mechanism. So
awesome.
That's one of the challenges that I really do think they're starting to overcome on that.
We quoted a project a while back that we ended up not doing, that was online crude oil tank inspection, and so being able to have an electronics package and a tank of crude that would be able to withstand, I think it was like 100 centigrade, and so it was a shitload of work to figure out how to get an electronics package to survive that kind of temperature, and to have implemented it would have been incredibly expensive. I mean, we came up with a design and we quoted the customer and they said, we can't afford to pay that much. And we're like, okay, that's what it costs to do what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Because, when you're trying to select components that can survive that temperature range, you've got a very narrow selection. Like if you just go on DigiKey, for instance, and you're like, I only want stuff that's going to be good above 100 centigrade. I mean, that's 220 Fahrenheit. Like, it's just like, all right, we got like 5 things. And so you're like, all right, I got to make a pie out of, pine cones and molasses and bubble gum. Well, okay, I can do that, but it's going to be incredibly hard. And so,
exactly. And that's, and honestly, kind of what we were talking about before with the trial and error portion of that, a lot of what the robots are doing right now. Yeah. And it's exactly what you're saying, what do we currently have that can either withstand this, or, is this 10 years out? And it's one of the, like I said, that's the exciting part. It's, trying to figure out, can we do this? But then you also run into,
I mean, with the right business case, you could have it in 6 months, I think, right? And so I think it all comes down to like, okay, so I go back to the 1960s with the space race with Russia, and I think like, we weren't ready to go to the moon. We didn't have that kind of technology. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I mean, we really, really wanted to. And we got every nerd in America on the problem. And we gave them, just tons of money. And at the end of the day, we got there because we worked really, really hard and we were motivated. And so right. I think, with the right business case, we can do anything, but you really have to have the right business case. And so what I've started to do at work is really, really evaluate, like, is this worth it? Does this make sense?
Right.
Should we be doing this?
Is there a market for it? And that's what you reminded me of actually is another, speaking of space, talking about Apollo 13. That's what I really loved about probably my favorite scene is when they have that problem with the CO2 going into the cabin. And this is, what some of the engineering courses that I took at college, they're, what they did at NASA. They're like, took out all the boxes. They're like, this is everything that we got in the shuttle. We got to make this fit into this. Figure it out. And it's.
I love that scene so much, and I mean it's on the nose because we've all been there. So yeah.
For us it was and I'm sure you did this trick as well. They're like they give you an egg. And they give you all these things to do, and they're like, okay, at the end of this, we're gonna take it to the top of the building. We're gonna drop it, and see if your egg survived.
And then like maybe one makes it out of
exactly. Yeah, people try like we're gonna parachute it down. No, the best way to do it is just wrap it as tightly as you can to get as much shit as you can on it, and then you just drop it and hope it does well. But it's the exact same thing, like what you were saying. There was a will and there was a way, and that's what I think is the beauty of America right there. And that's what you see is that I think it really is something in the blood of the innovation, the ingenuity, and just I mean we as Americans, we've always been like, let's conquer the next frontier.
Well, I am so grateful to have been born here. And I mean, I really, really love being a citizen of America because, like, we are the Super Bowl for innovation. I mean, we are, we have the highest GDP. We've got some really hardworking people. I mean, Texas more than anyone, to your guys' credit. Like, not to seem patronizing there. But, like, I think, it's just like, I mean, we're all working our asses off to make the best shit. And so,
No, you're exactly, and yeah, like the beauty, like I said, yeah, the innovate, like I said, we, for whatever reason, America is always about, we don't like being told no.
Right.
We don't like
But
being confined.
to
That's
be
the
honest, I think like regardless of like having been born here, I mean, I think we also attract like immigrants that want to do that too. So it's a
100%.
self-fulfilling experiment. Like we get people in from all over the world that are like, I want to be the best, and you're like, come over here. Like this is
Yeah,
where we're
yeah,
doing it.
exactly. It's and through the American story, and this probably goes into, and I'm sure you've seen this with like entrepreneurship, you're not guaranteed anything. People, I mean, people were coming over on Ellis Island all these years ago. They just had dreams, couple some bucks in their pocket, clothes on their back, but they were like, no, I'm coming here because, and I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to keep pushing it. I'm gonna, like, and
All of
that's,
our
and you
great
had,
grandparents, for
right,
instance.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, they were like, I'll cross any sea because, yeah, America, and I think actually,
Well, so Eastern
well,
Europe hasn't been great to the Jews in the case of my family.
yeah, well, my wife's family as well. Hers were, yeah, Eastern European Jews that they
There you
were
go.
like, yeah, it's good, it's better in America. But John Goodman, have you ever seen the movie The Gambler
I
with
haven't
Mark
yet. Should
Wahlberg?
I watch it?
You should. There's a scene where John Goodman, yeah, I mean, he's pretty much loaning Marky Mark money the entire time, and he comes to this bar, and he's like,
You get up $2.5 million. Any asshole in the world knows what to do. You get a house with a 25-year roof, an indestructible Jap economy shitbox. You put the rest into the system at 3 to 5% to pay your taxes, and that's your base. Get me? That's your fortress of fucking solitude. That puts you for the rest of your life at a level of fuck you. Somebody wants you to do something? Fuck you. Boss pisses you off? Fuck you. Own your house. Have a couple bucks in the bank. Don't drink. That's all I have to say to anybody at any social level. The United States of America is based on fuck you. You're a king? You have an army? Greatest navy in the history of the world? Fuck you, blow me. We'll fuck it up ourselves.
that is America. We don't like being told what to do. We don't like authority, and we're always about pushing the boundaries. We're all about what's the next frontier. And we got brilliant people, like, yeah, like Elon Musk. Like, who would have thought? Like, he's like, fuck it, I want to go
Well,
to
and he's a
Mars.
fucking immigrant. Like he came here from
Yeah,
South Africa.
100%. Exactly. He was, and the dude, slept on his couch when he was building these massive companies, and
Yeah,
saying like, and then dreaming up things like, hey, we went to the moon. I'm going to fucking Mars. I'm going to colonize Mars. I mean, again, that's the American way. We keep pushing the boundaries because, and again, I think it is something that is just, and that's the beauty, that anyone from any part of the world can come to this country and say, like, I'm here to push boundaries. I'm here to take us to the next level, and that's the beauty of America.
for
And
sure. 100% agree. Yeah, I really, really like that. Oh, you're the king of England. You've got the biggest navy in the world. Fuck you.
yes, and really, and Texans, kind of what you were saying, we
Yeah.
took it to the next level as well. I mean, Mexico, they wanted a cannon, and we said, if you want it so bad, come and take it. And they tried, and we killed a bunch of them, and we pushed them back to San Antonio. We followed them there, pushed them out, took over the Alamo, pushed the Mexican army back to Mexico, and Santa Anna is enraged. He said he marches into Texas with like 10,000 men, surrounds the Alamo, and demands that they surrender, and they say, fuck you, we're not surrendering. And and then he bombards the Alamo, gets to, and he storms the Alamo with 2,000 men. The Texans, they number less than 200. They kill, for every one Texan that's killed, they killed 3 Mexicans. Like I said, if you
So
ever
they
have a
get
chance to go to
murdered.
San,
Like they
yeah,
get
no,
totally murdered.
they get murdered, but they go down with a fight.
Right.
And then they go to goal. Then the Mexican army goes to Goliad, that actually was a massacre. They massacred 300 soldiers, push into what's today Houston, and then Sam Houston comes in with an army while the Mexicans were at a siesta, and he kills a bunch of them.
It's like Washington crossing the Delaware, effectively.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Yeah. He truly. They just go in. The Mexicans are sleeping. They kill a bunch of them, and Santa Anna flees in his underwear in the tall grass. They capture him there, and I've actually walked the entire port of the San Jacinto Monument about that. And they bring Santa Anna back to Sam Houston. And Sam Houston, I think there's a very famous picture where he's underneath a tree with Santa Anna right in front of him. He pretty much said, "You're either going to sign this treaty or I'm going to hang you from that tree." And so Santa Anna's like, "Okay, where do I sign, boss?" And that was Texas independence.
How do you create a business that creates other businesses that create other businesses? And so that's my current project.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really, as you know as well as I do, it comes down to talent and being able to replicate and really what I've learned doing BD and whatnot. There is a hunger and a drive that it's almost like you have to have it inside you to keep pushing forward. And keep expanding. It's something that, again, like I said, and that's the beauty of America. America allows you to bring that out of you, and to really and again, because there's no guarantee that you're going to do well. So what's the only thing that's pushing you forward to that? You're pushing forward because there's something
for the love of the game, baby.
Like, no, I gotta. Yeah, it must be love of the game, the hustle, the drive. Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of sales guys, you find a sales guy, you give them a commission, and you find out which ones are the winners, which ones are the losers, and that's the ones that they push forward. They're hungry, they're mean, they've got that properly channeled. Well, I actually think there are 4 things that you need for success.
I think
interested
you need to hear this.
Yeah. And I'm going to write a book about this one day, and I guarantee I'll give you a signed copy. Properly channeled aggression, not being afraid to fail, learn how to sell, and don't be a victim.
I love that.
If you have those 4 things, you will be successful.
Yeah, I think that's the best.
And 2 of those actually, and this was actually from my father-in-law. He gave me some of the best advice, and 2 of those are from him. He said, "Don't be a victim and learn how to sell." He's like, "Brian, if you want to make a lot of money, learn how to sell." And he would always say, "Don't be a victim."
100%.
He's like, no one likes a victim.
One of our best technicians at SK Robotics is handicapped. He's in a wheelchair. But the dude's not a victim. Like,
I love that.
He's a bad motherfucker. I mean, he is so amazing. Like, I mean, he was not the best at surface mount soldering when we started working together, and he just worked at it and got like 20 iterations in and was amazing at surface mount soldering. And he's like that with everything. Like, you're like, hey, you could be better at Google Calendar. And he's like, the next day you see like notifications coming in at like 9 and 10 p.m. the day before because he's like sending you like
I love
things,
that.
and you're like, this is a guy that's going to be a murderer and already kind of is. So
I like that. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's and that's one of the things that I find that I'm trying to teach my kids as well. I'm sure you're probably trying to teach your kids on this as well. Like just that, and I've already told my girls, develop a skill, develop a skill. And I'm like, and remember what Grandpa Billy says, don't be a victim. Don't be a victim, go after what you want. Like, because no one's going to give it to you. You gotta go after it. You gotta and I always tell people on the I say properly channeled aggression, not just aggression, because properly channeled aggression.
Well, just aggression is you're a dick.
Yeah, well, I say any idiot can take a brick and throw it through a window. That's aggression. But properly channeled aggression is you're putting in 120 hours in a week, just to get something off the ground, sleeping on the floor, making 200 calls in a day just for one yes. That's properly channeled aggression.
I love that.
And that is another thing that and this goes into do not be afraid to fail. I fail constantly. And this is something that I really try to tell my girls and anyone that will listen. I do a little mentoring at Baylor and whatnot. And I tell them, do not be afraid to fail. And that's one of the things that I do think our school system is failing our young.
I think it's a human nature a little bit, to be honest. Like, I just think people in general are a little bit afraid of failure. And I don't know. I think it's human nature. It kind of separates the wheat from the chaff, as it were. The person that can fail and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail and keep on just dusting the shit off of their face and going to work the next day is the person that's going to own everything, you know? And like,
oh yeah, no, exactly. But a lot of times, like, I'm sure we've all had it where, you fail a test, and they write F in red and circle it and, like do better or whatnot.
That for fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And a lot of people, they're told like, oh, I failed. I should just give up. And like, no, and the
absolutely
part,
not.
And that's the what I try to tell people is you're gonna fail. That there's no question. Everyone fails, but what do you do after that? Like, are we just giving up, or
learn from it and try not to fail the same way again?
Exactly. We take like, what did I do right? Because I probably did something right from this. But, obviously I failed, so I definitely did something wrong. But what am I doing about that? Am I going forward? Am I just saying, fuck this, I'm done, I cash out, Yeah. Like, no, I keep pushing forward.
You know what? What I do, Brian? I think you might agree, and you do this too. Is I keep a journal of mistakes and lessons learned. So every time that I fuck up in a tremendous way in business, I just journal about it, and I write like, this is what happened, and this sucks, and this is good, and here's what I won't do again, here's what I will do again, and blah, 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 blah. And then at the top of the journal, I try to keep a bulleted list, and I do need to reconcile this list and go through and just refactor it a bit. But like, the idea is if I follow every bullet point on the list, I will not repeat any of these mistakes, and so I don't know. I mean, I try to just improve as a person through every failure, and I hope other people do this too, because society is better for it.
Yeah, no, I do the same. Yeah, no, I journal. Actually quite similar to what you were saying. And I also have a big whiteboard that nice. I'll just that I'll try. And sometimes I just need to remember, like, okay, if I'm going about my day, I just look over and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that again, or I'm doing something better than that. And that's the beauty part of it. It's all about we're pushing forward. I mean, the Marines, they've got a guy that I had a mentor growing up that was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, Colonel Kenneth R. Sluice, one of my mentors growing up. And he was like, sometimes you just got to take the hill. He's like, just take the fucking hill. Just whatever you do, just take it. Just go, take it. And that's always stuck with me. Sometimes you just got to take the hill. Like, and he's like, yeah, so you might. And I mean, he was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam, nice. So I'm sure he had some stories.
I'm sure of it.
But yeah, no, and that actually, so I did ROTC for a little bit at Baylor, and it was cool. Actually, I remember that we had what was called the Night of Arnold, which Arnold is Air Society. So there was a General Arnold, and he was one of the founders of, I think it might have been the Air Force Academy or whatnot. But anyway, what they did for initiation was they pretty much blindfolded us, threw us in vans, and drove us out to the woods. And you had to kind of survive for a night. And your task was, there was a hill that there was, I can't remember what it was, but there was some sort of thing that you had to capture on there, and I was in charge of leading us to that hill. So I get everyone to there, and I'm like, I think that's it. And I just start running. I run as fast as I can. Now, eventually, some guy tackled me, and they took me to some area where they just PT'd us for the night. It was, I was in much better shape back then than I am right now. But what I learned about myself right then is exactly what the colonel was saying: just take the fucking hill. Like I said, I'm very very proud of what Pike's been able to do with their robots, and obviously got its drones and whatnot, and
good folks all around.
Yeah, really, really good folks all around, and yeah, I'm optimistic about the future.
Me as well.
With you. I know there are a lot of naysayers right now, but
we're at a good point in history, I think. I mean, right now, to your point, like, I think it's only upwards and onwards. I mean, we're building bigger and better shit than we ever have before.
Yes. No, it's and I'm really curious about what the next frontier is. I mean, obviously, we're really scratching the surface with AI, and obviously, we got going to Mars and whatnot, and I do wonder what is the next frontier. What is the next frontier we're going to cross? Because I think, I mean, I've got my thoughts, but
what do you think?
In space, I really do wonder if we're just gonna. I mean, there's so much quote unquote to colonize. I really just wonder if that's what we're gonna do. Just keep pushing towards other planets. I mean, I think the Mars is really going to be a case study of, like, okay, logistically, what is it going to take? What is it going to take to colonize another planet? And then the thought is you just replicate it. You just think, like, okay, it's going to take this amount of time, this many years, this amount of fuel, this amount of logistical support. You gotta build some sort of habitable environment. Yeah, and then you just replicate it. So that's I do wonder if that's kind of the thought, and I'm sure there's some smarter people than me that are working on that. I think that could be a frontier of where we're going. But yeah, no, it's a that's what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I feel like with futurism, it's always dangerous predicting the wrong thing. Tell you what I don't think it is. But maybe that's a negative place to go. So, yeah, no, I mean, I think to your point, like, space colonization is big. I mean, obviously getting helium-3 out of the moon and doing more there, I think, is big. Mars, I think, is big. And then here on Earth, right? Like, I mean, industrial inspection and maintenance, medical, agriculture, mining, like, roboticize all those industries. Like, my opinion is we can only be better as a society if we force multiply the efforts of the limited people we have, and the only way to do that is robotics. So we got to just build the best stuff we can as a society and continue to push forward.
Yeah, no. Amen, brother. L'chaim.
So as we, that's a perfect note to end on. As we get toward the end of this episode, is there anything you want to plug?
Like I said, I think, like I said, I really have enjoyed this conversation with and I obviously talk a little bit about my journey with Pike, and even my journey into robotics, and like I said, really appreciate you having me on, and yeah, no, that's like I said, it's been a lot of fun.
Likewise, Brian. It's been a pleasure. People listening, check out Pike Robotics. Just awesome tank, SEAL inspection robot company. Really, really cool product. Inspection. Great folks utilizing drones to just survey the ever-loving shit out of what is out there in many ways, shapes, and forms. And Brian Smith, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm grateful to you for coming on the podcast. Let's do it again soon.
I would love it. I would love it, Spencer. I've really enjoyed this, and I wish you all well. And let's do it again.
Likewise, and let's do it again. Thanks for joining us today. If you've made it this far, chances are you'll like other episodes too. Collaborative with Spencer Krause can be found on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public. Subscribe today to get notified when the latest episodes release and support the channel. Have an idea for a guest I should interview? Hop in the comments and let me know who that is. I'm always looking for new people to talk to, and chances are you know folks that I don't yet. Thanks for coming in, and I'll see you on the next one. Collaborative with Spencer Krause is sponsored by SKA Robotics. If you're in the market for elite field robotics expertise, please consider hiring SKA Robotics. They sponsor this podcast and solve some of the toughest engineering problems in the world. SKA Robotics can be found at skarobotics.com.